So next we come to the topic of stroke. What is stroke? Stroke definition has been given by WHO. Okay, so stroke is basically defined as rapidly developed signs of focal disturbance, rapidly developed clinical signs of focal disturbance, clinical signs of focal disturbance of cerebral function lasting more than 24 hours or leading to death with no apparent cause other than vascular, and if it is less than 24 hours, it is TIA. Basically, WHO has defined stroke as rapidly developed clinical signs of focal disturbance. Means they are rapidly developed. Okay, rapidly developed. Okay, then there are signs of focal disturbance. Means not generalized disturbance. The disturbances will be focal. Means only one part of the brain. We can locate exactly where the foci is. Means suppose this is the brain. If we say that this is the foci, then suppose this is the brain, and we can locate this here as the focus. Then we can see, since the brain is oppositely innervated, we can see the symptoms here on the opposite side. So like that means it is not a generalized or a global event happening. It's the event that is happening is a very focal region in the brain. Okay, so that it is rapidly developed signs of focal disturbance. Okay, that lasts greater than 24 hours or leading to death. Okay, with no other time is 24 hours, or he can die within less than 24 hours also, that is also okay. If he dies, it is fine. If he does not die, then it has to last for more than 24 hours. Okay, and there should be no other cause other than vascular. If any other cause can be thought of, then that is not considered stroke. So it is rapidly developed signs of focal disturbance lasting for greater than 24 hours or leading to death with no other cause other than vascular. Okay. Now, what is TIA? What does TIA stand for? TIA stands for transient ischemic attack. Transient ischemic attack basically is the same definition, only if this greater than 24 hours is less than 24 hours and does not lead to death, then that is transient ischemic attack. Next, rheumatic heart disease. Rheumatic heart disease basically, you see, there is another term called rheumatic fever, and there is something called rheumatic heart disease. Okay, they cannot be separated from an epidemiological point of view. Okay, so rheumatic fever is basically a febrile disease affecting connective tissues, particularly the heart and the joints, and it is initiated by an infection called the Group A beta hemolytic streptococcus. Okay, although risk factor is not communicable, but it results in communicable diseases, that is streptococcal pharyngitis. Means this will cause streptococcal pharyngitis. Okay, so rheumatic fever often leads to rheumatic heart disease, which is a crippling disease. So first topic is right, Group A beta hemolytic streptococcal. Next, tell me what is Jai Vigyan mission mode. What is Jai Vigyan Mission Mode project? Jai Vigyan Mission Mode project is basically a community control project for rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease in India. Okay. Now, if I ask you what are the risk factors, the risk factors here will be agent. Agent is what? Group A, beta hemolytic streptococci, which I spoke. Okay. Next, recently, so I'll just write strep, but it is basically this one, huh? Group A, beta hemolytic streptococci. I'm just writing strep. Okay. And recently, it has been found that Coxsackie B4 has also been found. Next, recent data suggests that Coxsackie B4 may be the causative factor, and Streptococcus may be just the conditioning factor, but we don't know for sure yet. Okay. Next is host. Host factors can be like age, sex, okay, socio-economic status, like that. So, next, if I ask you what sex, it is commoner in females. Okay, means it is basically equal in both sexes, but the prognosis is worse in females. Okay, and it is seen in poor socio-economic conditions. Okay, and it is a disease of childhood. It is common in childhood and adolescence, though it can occur in adults. Okay, next. Next, I come to the diagnosis. Diagnostics criteria. Yes, you have read in patho. You will also read in medicine. So I will not cover here. I will do what I am supposed to do. I will teach prevention, because community medicine is all about prevention. Okay, so prevention can be primary prevention, secondary prevention, non-medical measures, and evaluation. So, primary prevention. What is primary prevention? Tell me. The primary prevention will be here to prevent the first attack of rheumatic fever. So you will basically, how you will prevent? You will prevent by identifying all patients with streptococcal pharyngitis and treat them with penicillin. So basically what you are doing, prevent rheumatic fever. How? Identify all patients with strep, sore throat and treat with penicillin. That is primary prevention. You prevent rheumatic fever. Okay. How will you prevent rheumatic fever? By identifying all patients with streptococcal sore throat and treat them with penicillin. Next is secondary prevention. How will you prevent what is secondary prevention? It is basically prevention of recurrences of rheumatic fever. What will you do? Intramuscular injection of what? Of benzathine penicillin. Benzathine benzyl penicillin. Okay, how much? 1.2 million units at the rate of 3 weeks. Means You will give intramuscular injection of benzathine, benzyl penicillin, 1.2 million units every 3 weeks. Okay, and it is continued till when? Continued for at least 5 years or until the child reaches 18 years, whichever is later. So, till next 5 years or 18-year-old child, whichever is more. So, prevention is you will give intramuscular injection of benzathine, benzyl penicillin, 1.2 million units every 3 weeks. Until when will you give? You will give till. So you will give what? If I ask you secondary prevention, what you will do? You will do this, and you will give till when? If I ask, then you will give till 5 years or till 18 years old. The child becomes 18 years old. Whichever is later. Next is non-medical measures. What are the non-medical measures? Basically, it has been found that it is a disease of the poor, na? In low socioeconomic status, it is common. So, what are the non-medical measures? You improve the living conditions, breaking the poverty cycle. Okay, so improve living conditions. So that is non-medical measures, and then there is evaluation. Here, the prevalence of rheumatic heart disease in school children is evaluated from time to time. So, if Park gives you a question, what is the best indicator for prevalence of heart disease? Best indicator for prevalence of RHD. Okay, is what? Best indicator for prevalence of heart disease? It is best indicator for prevalence of heart disease is you check in school children. So basically, it is doing periodic surveys in school children. That is the best indicator. And Park gives not only stops here, Park gives in detail the surveys should be done where? It should be done in schools. Okay, and done after how many years? 5-year interval. Okay, sample size is 20,000 to 30,000 sample size, and it should be done in the age group of children 6 to 14 years. So if I ask you what is the best indicator for prevalence of rheumatic heart disease, best indicator is find out in school children. Where? So the details are given in Park. Where you will do it? The survey should be done in schools. It should be done at 5-year interval. The sample size should be 20 to 30,000, and it should be done in children between 6 to 14 years age. So that concludes rheumatic heart disease. Next is cancers. You know the definition of cancer? Basically, abnormal growth of cells and ability to invade adjacent tissues, and the death of the affected part if the tumor has progressed beyond the stage where it can be successfully removed. So those are basically cancers. Next, the types are cancers like carcinoma, sarcoma, lymphoma. Then your Park has given a statistics table which gives the list of the commonest cancers in males and in females. You should learn that list, and this is the world data. And then Park also gives another table where India data is given. the list of the commonest cancers in males, commonest in females in India, and overall also it is given. Okay, so you should learn these two tables. Means the table which contains the world data regarding the most common cancers in males, in females, and in both, and in India in males and in females and in both. The list, the commonest cancers, you should know at least the which is the commonest. Suppose you should know commonest cancer in males in India, commonest cancer in females in India, commonest cancer in India. So this will be so similar. Commonest cancer in the world in males, commonest cancer in world in females, commonest cancer in the world like that. So those things you should know. I'm not writing it because it will keep changing from year to year. Next, what are the causes of cancer? What are the causes of cancer? Causes of cancer are basically the same. Almost the list is almost same. Tobacco, alcohol, dietary factors, occupational exposures, viruses, parasites, others. Okay. Then there are genetic factors. So tobacco, alcohol, diet. Then what is this? This is occupational exposure, viruses. What is P? P is parasites, others, genetic factors. Okay. And also you can add lifestyle. So these are the causes. Next, how will you, if I ask, how will you prevent cancers? Cancer prevention, the first is primary prevention. Primary prevention is again that control of tobacco, alcohol, then personal hygiene, prevention of radiation, or prevention of occupational exposure, immunization against the infections which can cause cancer, then food and drugs prevention, air control, air pollution basically prevention, treatment of precancerous lesions, legislation, and cancer education. Okay. Next, here one topic is there. What are the danger signals for cancer? If I ask you, what are the danger signals of cancer? You have to tell me first, lump or hard area in the breast. Lump in breast. Okay. Next, change in wart or mole. Means suppose the wart was like this initially, now it has become bigger. So that is change in wart or mole. Next, persistent cough or hoarseness. Okay. Next, persistent change in dietary activity. The persistence, what is this? Cough or hoarseness. Persistent change in dietary activity. And then excessive loss of blood in the monthly period or loss of blood outside the usual dates. So blood excess loss in menses or outside the menses if it is bleeding. Okay. Blood loss from orifice, from any blood loss from any orifice which is abnormal. Then swelling which does not get better, and then there is unexplained weight loss. So these are basically the danger signals for cancer. Lump in breast, change in wart or mole, persistent change in the dietary habit. Okay, so what is this PCH? This is persistent cough or hoarseness. What is this PCD? This is basically persistent change in digestive activity, in digestive or bowel habits basically. Okay, so blood loss excess in menses or outside the menstrual periods, blood loss from any orifice, natural orifice, okay, which is abnormal. Then S stands for any sore or swelling that does not get better, and then there is unexplained weight loss. Next is secondary prevention. Under secondary prevention, there is cancer registration, early detection of cases, and treatment. Cancer registration, early detection and treatment, and early detection of cases and treatment. So cancer registration, early detection and treatment. This is secondary prevention. Under secondary prevention, you also have screening. Cancer screening. Cancer registration, early detection, treatment, cancer screening. Next. We move on to diabetes. Diabetes initially was considered as a single disease, but nowadays diabetes are considered as a heterogeneous group of diseases characterized by a state of chronic hyperglycemia. Heterogeneous group of diseases characterized by a common state of chronic hyperglycemia. Okay. So what is the diagnostic criteria of diabetes? Diagnostic criteria is random blood sugar greater than equal to 200 milligram per deciliter, fasting blood sugar greater than equal to 126 milligram per deciliter, then HbA1c greater than equal to 6.5%, or 2R plasma glucose on oral glucose tolerance test greater than equal to 200 milligram per deciliter on OGTT. Okay, so these four are the diagnostic criteria for diabetes. Okay, next. Next we come to the natural history and epidemiology. It has got agent, host factors, environmental factors. Then there is screening for diabetes, prevention of diabetes. These all basically can be written from the same concepts which I had spoken in the first initially, where I had spoken about the different preventive strategy, primary prevention, secondary prevention of all the communicable diseases, all the non-communicable diseases. From there only you can write. Next, we come to obesity. Obesity may be defined as an abnormal growth of adipose tissue due to enlargement of fat cells size, that is hypertrophic obesity, or an enlargement in cell number, that is hyperplastic obesity, or a combination of both. So basically, abnormal growth of adipose tissue due to what? Increase in cell number or increase in cell size. So cell number is what? Cell number is what? Tell me. Cell number is hyperplastic and cell size is hypertrophic obesity. Okay, that is obesity. Next, Park gives a beautiful line. Most prevalent form of malnutrition. What is the most prevalent form of malnutrition? It is obesity. Next,